Greetings, accounting. Today we're going to work on the rest of your notes, and we're actually not going to do the last two slides. We're going to save those for when I return, should I not make it today. Um, excuse me. So the first thing we're going to do today, this was what we answered last class, was how are these items different? How are they related? Pay period, payroll. We're going to continue on. Next page or next slide is going to talk to you about calculating employee hours. There is a time card on page 347. I would like you to recreate that time card in that set or that spreadsheet that I gave you in the assignment in the classroom as well, the payroll register spreadsheet. I want you to create a new um, sheet tab down at the bottom and label it time card and then remake that time card using cells and manipulating it and sizing it up and just remaking that time card. That's the first thing you're going to do, and to see if you understand how they calculate the hours. I want to see if you can do that. All right. It should all give you the information. I just want you to have that base time card so when we do more in the future, like in problem 12-1 and 12-2, you'll already have the time card available and you can just do that using that time card and changing the numbers. Okay, so go make that time card first thing today. When you get back, you might pause this and then come back to this for your next part. I'm going to keep talking, but you pause it for now, go do your time card, and then come back. Okay, so if you've come back, you're done from hitting pause. I'm going to go back to the notes. Give me a second here. There we go. And the next thing it says, describe how to calculate wages plus overtime in this space. So after you've made your time card, now I want you to explain to me in your own words, how do you calculate wages and overtime in here? If you've forgotten, your regular wages are 40 hours per week. And then if you're going to earn overtime, that's time and a half. So if that's the case, 40 times whatever your average wage is will give you your rate, your wages, and then time and a half. So if you had 43 hours, you're going to take your extra 3 hours times 1.5, then times the rate, whatever your wage is, and that'll give you your overtime wage. Okay, so you need to tell me that here, explain that to me, or show me in an equation on this slide what that looks like. Okay, hopefully you should get that or do that well because I've just given you kind of the example. So I just want you to put it in your own words. So with that being said, that's going to lead us into our next assignment, and I'm going to go to the next slide. We need to know this information first. So along with calculating employee wages, salaries, commissions, and all those things, we also have taxes that we have to account for. And so these are a short list of some taxes or a small scale of taxes that you can look at and may have to deal with someday. So you've got your FICA taxes, which is your Social Security and Medicare. Um, you also have your federal withholdings. Um, they're going to be located in a table. You'll also have your state withholdings, and it looks like they also have a maybe a retirement amount here. This is a California tax guide. Um, and then over on this other side, those were all employee, okay? So state, federal, Medicare, Social Security is 6.2%. Um, the employer payroll taxes, notice they also have to pay into your Social Security or Medicare. They pay the same amount. So when you ever hear about double taxation, this is where double taxation actually occurs. In addition to that, they also charge the employer, not the employee, federal unemployment tax and state unemployment tax. So those are a couple things that also get taken out. In addition to that, I'm going to ask you to try to identify what this text is. I'll give you a little challenge here today. And you can just put that answer down here at the bottom. What is ETT? You tell me. And it looks like it's 0.1%. And again, this is on a California tax guide, so you can use that for your own value or own worth. But the next thing I want you to do, we're going to scroll down to the next slide. And what amounts account for tax? So with a federal scenario, we're going to do a tax table. Your tax table is located in your textbook in chapter 12, so you're going to have to go find that and figure out how to calculate your federal tax. If you've had personal finance, you should already know how to do this. Um, so use your ability if you've had personal finance to calculate that. Down here in the state, they have different variances. 3% of the first 15,000, 4.9% above 15,000. So depending on how much you're making, that's how much tax you're going to be charged. And then Medicare is always 1.45% of your wages, and Social Security is 6.2%. Okay, so what does that really all mean? We'll talk about in a second, but we got a couple more taxes to calculate or things to consider. Not taxes, but these are voluntary deductions, like a qualified retirement plan. Like, for instance, I have Capers, or maybe you offer an IRA in your company. There are also things called Roth IRAs. The difference between these two is not the amount that's taken out, it's when they are taxed. All right. So Roth IRAs are designed to be taxed in advance, so you don't when you pull them out, for income later, you don't pay any income tax on them. On the contrary, IRAs, they are not taxed till you start withdrawing money from them. So when you start pulling income when you retire, that's when they get taxed. The 401k is very similar to a regular IRA. A lot of employers offer the 401k that are not public entities, and they match whatever you contribute, they put in there as well. So 401ks can be really lucrative. And in the education industry, we have 403bs. They work the same way. The only catch is our employers don't match. Government institutions usually don't match unless you're at a higher up level. So with that being said, let's go to an assignment. The first thing I want you to do, it's going to refer back to this table we started to look at the beginning. This one right here. So I've given you all the information for these particular students who were in my class once upon a time as far as their earnings are concerned. And I want you to make a table in the spreadsheet, which I believe is already created. Let's go look at that real quick. Maybe. Oh, we want to go to this one. And your practice. This is your notes practice. So you've got to start plugging in their information. So the first thing you're going to want to do is plug in their hourly rate, hours worked, overtime, and wage earned. All right. And then if they don't have a wage, maybe they were making salary, you plug the salary in here. Um, if they have a commission too, you can do the commission. And then what all of this will equal total earnings. Now, how do we do all that? It's pretty simple. I'm going to go to the one that I've already completed. Um, so you can see here that I've just moved over or farmed over all the stuff that was in the slides into my spreadsheet here. And I'm actually going to expand this because you can't see it all. 1 second. Okay, you might like this view a little better now that you can see all the people that I farmed over. I just I copied and pasted their information right on over into these slides, and I made my headings so I could calculate their payroll. All right, so I went in and looked at the hourly rates, calculated the number of hours they worked if they were making a wage, and came up with the wages earned, and if they had any overtime, I added that in, which a couple of them did, and so that gave me a total wage. The wages earned, the regular wages earned plus the overtime for Parker Rocky was 456.13. In Tori Cooper's scenario, she had a $500 salary plus $300 from commission. Why $300? Well, she gets a 10% commission on all sales. Her total sales was $3,000. How do you know her total sales is $3,000? She has the single asterisk by her name. The double asterisk means they got $6,000 in total sales. That's Nancy Larity. How do I know that? Well, down here I have a little legend that tells me that. And so forth and so on for the three asterisks for Nate Bell. Okay? So after I calculate that, I'm going to come over here and after I plug these numbers in, how did I calculate the wages earned? Well, I used a formula. All right, and I'm going to pause so you can see the formula as well. I got to move my view up again. Okay, so you'll notice in here in the cell, I put equals 40, which is 40 hours, because regular rate is only times the first 40 hours, times C5, which is their hourly rate. So that gave me that amount, the $410. And then in the overtime box, I took your 3 extra hours, that's the 3 on the end here, times 1.5 because you get time and a half. That's why I take it times 1.5 times the regular rate, which is $10.25. That gave me $46.13. Over here in the total earnings, well, I just added overtime plus wages earned, and that gave me the total earnings. Okay, all that was done with using formulas out of using these first hourly rates, 43 hours, and then I just did the math from there. Same thing applies for all of these. The salary, um, the salary is given to you. You don't have to go look for that anywhere. The commission you do have to calculate. It's pretty easy to find if you just know 10% of 3,000 is 300. You can just type 300 in, or you could do a formula where you type in equals. You click on 3,000 and you take it times 10%. But I would just type the 300 in, the 600 in, and the 550 in for now because you don't have a separate legend over here to help you. The legend has wording with it, so it won't recognize it as a number. So keep that in mind, something to think about. Um, and then if they have salary and commission, you just add those together and you get the total amount earned. Okay? So the next thing, after you get your totals for your wages, you're then going to come over here and you're going to find taxes. The federal taxes will be located in that tax table, and you got to find out where their tax falls. And some of that's going to play into what their status is over here as single. We did not include whether they had any allowances. So just assume they don't have any allowances and play it by ear and calculate your federal tax. If I go back and look at the notes, in here it also doesn't show them having any allowances. We just pretended like they were all still single and still just working for a living. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button there. Okay, so I've got about 3 minutes left in this recording, so I'm going to go through this kind of quick. These come out of a table. They're just plugged in. So I went and found that $46 was what they would pay for federal tax if they earned this much, if Parker Rocky earned this much. In addition to that, the state tax, you'll notice if I calculated his 456.13, I assumed that he would make more than 15,000 a year. So I took his wages, his total earnings here, times 0.049, or that's 4.9%, the amount or the rate I gave you earlier in the notes. And so I just did a little formula there, and that gave me 22.35. And I did that same assumption for everybody else. I assumed that everybody was going to make over 15%. So after I put this formula in, I just drug the fill handle down, and that gave me the total calculation. And so this is the total amount of sales or state tax, I'm sorry, that I'm going to have to pay off of that 4.9%. Going over Social Security, doing the same thing, taking the total earnings, but this time times 6.2% or 0.062, and then I just drug the fill handle down after I did the first one to get those numbers. Medicare, the rate's just different. This time it was 1.45%. And then on the far end, I did some health insurance, and I just assumed everybody would take health insurance, and for my company in this practice scenario, $150. Okay. The next thing, if you want to determine whether they have a retirement plan or not, totally up to you. The next thing we really need to do is total deductions. How do you do that? Well, you go to your auto sum. No, I clicked average. I didn't want to do that. Sum. You're going to select all your deductions that you've added up to this point. You hit enter. It's probably going to put it there. There it goes. And then you drag that down to get your total deductions for everything. There we go. And then how do I calculate net pay? Well, net pay is a formula. It's equals total earnings minus total deductions. All right, once you plug that in, you have your net pay. That's how much the check's going to be written to Parker and everybody else and so on. I'm going to drag that down so you can see how much each one of them is going to make after taxes. That should conclude your payroll earnings record. Um, Once you complete this, you can move on to problem 12-1. If you don't have time today, that's fine. We can pick up where we left off tomorrow. All right, this was a long video. Hopefully you suffered through it and survived. And I will see you guys on Monday if I didn't see you today. All right, bye.